Thank you for inviting me to be here with you today. And before I talk to the matter of the budget, I just want to say that this government of Ontario, led by Premier Ford, Minister Phillips, and others, this government has been a good partner to the City of Toronto when it comes to dealing with the pandemic. We talk each and every day back and forth. We've cooperated on just about everything that we've done. And I just want people to know that in the country's biggest city, we have a government of Ontario that has been responsive and has listened and has worked well with us, and we've tried to do the same with them. And I think it's made a big difference in terms of our ability to support people and to support businesses. Now, I've had a chance to visit this grocery store a number of times, and I know it's become a frequent destination of choice, not just for the Iranian community, but for the entire surrounding community. They have things here that people don't have anywhere else. And one thing I know for sure, the Premier, Minister Phillips, myself, we are absolutely united in doing everything possible to help people and businesses during the ongoing pandemic. A lot of the challenges facing small business existed before. They had many challenges with many different things, but COVID-19 has really brought that home. It is hurting people and it is hurting businesses. We know that. And it is our job as governments to help them. Our number one priority right now for all of us, I think, is to stop the spread of the virus in our city and across the province. We need healthy people in order to have a healthy economy. But we also need a healthy economy to have truly healthy people, people who have the stability and the dignity of a job, the ability to provide for themselves and for their families. And so I'm here to say that the initiatives announced in the budget will help us to help businesses so that they can stay open and continue to be the backbone of our economy, not just so they can stay open, but so they can grow and thrive and employ more people and frankly make more money. There's nothing wrong with that because they reinvest that in making their business bigger and creating even more jobs. And so I'm very pleased to stand here with the Premier and with the ministers to support businesses during these tough times and to support these measures that they have brought forward in their budget. By cutting the business education tax rates, the Government of Ontario is helping businesses save $133 million in Toronto alone. That's $133 million in Toronto alone. The tax rate is being reduced from 0.98% to 0.88%. That's a cut of about 10% for Toronto commercial properties, and that's significant. For some Toronto businesses, this measure alone, before we even get to the separate tax bracket, will mean savings of over $1,000. To put that into further perspective, I want to provide some examples of how this will impact businesses in various regions within the City of Toronto. For a Scarborough fruit and grocery store, for example, with a current value assessment of $988,000, this means $988 in annual savings, year after year. For a North York market, similar to this one that we're visiting here today with a CVA of $1.89 million, the savings will be $1,890 every year. And for an Etobicoke Food Mart with a CVA of $1.54 million, the savings will be $1,540 each and every year. And for downtown, where the property values are obviously higher, a CVA of $2.38 million will produce savings of $2,380 every single year. Now, thanks to the possibility also being created by this budget, a separate measure, this budget brought forward by Premier Ford and Minister Phillips and their government, our city will now begin to explore the creation of a small business taxation subclass, a separate bracket to help small businesses. Based on preliminary research, this tax subclass, a separate tax bracket for smaller companies, could save those small businesses thousands more. You heard the minister make reference to that in the form of lower property taxes, and this would be revenue neutral to the city thanks to the fact that the province is going to be contributing to this and thanks to the way the tax system works. So I want to thank the province for coming forward with these measures in the provincial budget. I think the commitment of Premier Ford to small business is well known, and these measures might well have been in this budget if we hadn't had a pandemic, because they're necessary to see us grow more jobs for more people. But the fact is we need it more than ever because of the pandemic, and these measures have been brought forward. They're going to make a big difference. We've worked well together throughout the pandemic because we know people want their governments cooperating at the best of times, and especially during the tougher times like we're experiencing now. It is this kind of unified approach that led to the Safe Restart Agreement. It's something that I championed on behalf of Toronto and all cities, but that the Premier also championed. I can tell you I witnessed that myself. He championed it with his fellow premiers, and the Deputy Prime Minister of this country and the Prime Minister championed it at the federal level. And that agreement is helping cities, including the City of Toronto, with financial shortfalls like transit revenue losses due to the pandemic. Together, These two governments helped Toronto and helped Torontonians avoid huge tax increases or massive service cuts at a time when people can't afford either. The work to help businesses and residents get through this pandemic and the pandemic itself is far from over, but I know that we are committed to working together alongside our residents and businesses to tackle this monumental challenge. So Premier, Ministers and members of Provincial Parliament, thank you for inviting me today, and thank you for these measures which will help Toronto gain strength as Ontario and Canada's economic engine. I would now like to invite up to the podium MPP Stan Cho. He is the local MPP, but he's one of those people that when I heard he was running for public office, and let alone when he got elected, I just said, that's the kind of person we need in public life. He gets business, he gets his community, he's a hard worker, I see him all the time, and I'm very pleased to, well, I'm not welcoming him to his own riding, but I am welcoming him up to this podium. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. Good afternoon and welcome to Willowdale. I want to thank the Premier, Minister Phillips, Minister Sarkaria,